Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Last week I did make this bookmark with my kit, and so I wanted to do this week and show you how I did it. It was a very fun process. So I'm not gonna use my regular watercolors. Let me show you here. These are my regular watercolor from Rips. I'm not gonna use that. Instead, I'm gonna use my kids' watercolor, just because I think it's very important that to know that sometimes you can do fun and beautiful crafts just by using whatever you have at home. So I'm gonna start putting my mat in here because we're gonna have a lot of water and stamping. So I'm using this register paper roll, and I'm thinking that my bookmark is gonna be like about this size. Could be smaller, but I'm not gonna worry about the perfect shape right now because I'm gonna worry about that once it's done. So the first step, of course, is gonna be stamping. I'm gonna be using this flower. So basically what I'm gonna do is just stamping flowers by the edges, and every time I stamp a flower, I also stamp and cut this flower in another piece of paper, because we're gonna be doing what I call complex stamping, which means that we're gonna be stamping over other figures. So in this specific case, I'm gonna put that flower back and forth in 3 different places in this piece of paper, because that's how I like doing this, but you can do that however you want. Now I don't want to fill up completely the paper, but instead I want to give it kind of a folkloric kind of feeling. This is what I meant when I said that this was stamped in another paper and cut. So I can cut it, those pieces, because we're gonna use them later. Okay, now the second flower is gonna be stamped. I'm gonna do in fast camera because this is gonna take me forever. Okay, third flower, same thing, again fast piece camera. Okay, we're done with the flowers, and here's when this starts to be kind of fun. My hands are all full of ink. So this is the leaf that I also die cutted. So we're gonna put these pieces that fit into these flowers so we can stamp on the top of that. Let me show you with washi tape how I do this. So I cut a piece of washi tape and then fold the corner and then paste the other part over, so I have sticky parts back and forth, and then I paste that in the back of my figure, and then I paste that back, and it's perfect for complex stamping. So anyway, let me go, oops, let me clean up my desk. Actually let's clean up. This is a mess, and something that I learned a long time ago is that the best thing that you can do is you have to take care of your mat and your materials. Cleaning up is a very important process, so let's do that right now before we have a huge mess here. So once we have this cut, we're gonna put these pieces of paper back in there. We have this piece. This is not gonna be pasted all together because the sticky part, the washi tape, is in the middle of the flower, which is okay. Anyway, so we put this leaf, and you know what I mean by complex stamping when I put this piece of paper there. Sorry, with this stamp in there. So I'm stamping in the top of the flower, and because my flower is protected, then the stamp is not gonna touch my flower. See how it's protected? And so I'm gonna keep doing that for all the other parts, and again I'm gonna put my flower there, and then I'm gonna be stamping as well. So the idea is that every time you stamp something, you just cover it. because these leaves have to go behind the flower and I don't want them to stick out. And I'm gonna do the same with this flower. And now the reason because I'm doing these leaves is because I want some green in here. If you don't need a green, or you don't want a green, or you don't have a green leaf, you don't have to do it. You can even draw these flowers. It's all about to have fun. I'm just lazy by drawing, so I'm just stamping, which is a lot easier for me. And also because these flowers are so beautiful, and then so beautifully and complex designs that I don't want to match or think about it, but totally doable by hand. Now the beauty of this is that now that we have these edges, at the beginning I was thinking that I was gonna do the same thing that I did with the other stamps, to put numbers in here, but I'm thinking that I'm just gonna put this circular kind of stamp and maybe something else like a postage note, like this one, and then I will call it done. And the other bookmarks that I worked, they do have numbers like this one, and they have a little bit of text like Paris or New York, stuff like that. So you can see that here, and I did even put like a big stamp in there, but I'm not gonna do that here. So I'm gonna just go with the stamps that I have, and then I'm gonna start the coloring. But we need to clean up a little bit here before we start doing that. Okay, so here is the stamp it. I'm using a very basic brush. So this is a Chinese brush. I thought the watercolor is cheap. I would say invest a little bit more in your brush because it's very important. This is not very expensive, and yet it's very helpful. It's a lot better than the one that comes with this set, this watercolor set. So I'm gonna mix my green, and for that I'm gonna start with blue. I thought I could do this just by mixing green with red, but instead I'm gonna add a lot of blue because I want this to be a very cold green. And then I'm gonna go over the ink, stamp it, and then I'm gonna color that. Now something that I want to highlight is that you shouldn't use too much water when you're coloring in paper that is not watercolor paper, because the paper porosity is gonna make it wrinkle. And also if you are like we're doing right now, coloring over ink, the ink is gonna smear and it's gonna not look beautiful. Alright, this is the green that I was looking for. It's a little bit darker than the one that I used for the other bookmark, but I don't mind. I really like how cold it is, and the reason I'm using the cold color is because I want this to be a contrast with the pastels. Anyway, I'm gonna keep coloring, so I'm gonna put this in fast mode. I hope that you enjoy this. Okay, now that we have the greens, we can go with the reds, and I'm gonna show you how I mix my red. So I go with the regular red, and this is kind of fuchsia red. It's a very vibrant color. I do not like it. I wouldn't use that directly into my paper. So let me tell you how I mix this. Now my kid has been using this watercolor set, so all the colors are somehow mixed. But just as a good habit, I do clean my brush before I go into another color. So I'm gonna go with this yellow one, and it's gonna look a little bit orangey, kind of peachy color. That's totally fine. It's still red. You can add a little bit more of red if you want to, but I like this color, so I'm gonna go for this. And basically I'm gonna go over the biggest flower here, And now what I'm gonna do again is going into the colors. If you put a little bit more water on that, that's totally fine. It's just like nature. Some leaves are, some petals are lighter color than others. So if you make any colors differently, that's totally fine. It's actually desired. And if you go out of the edges when you're coloring, that is also totally fine. On the contrary, it looks more natural. Anyway, I'm gonna go through the other figures as well, so I'm gonna put this again in fast camera so you can see that. Okay, we have two colors now, and then the next step is gonna be this purple. I'm choosing just directly out of the color because I mixed previously in there. I added a little bit of yellow before, so it's looking in the color that I wanted. So if you want to change color, you can add yellow, and I'm gonna follow the same process. So I'm gonna put this in fast camera again. Okay, so now we have three colors. I'm gonna choose the yellow, and for the yellow I just mix the yellow directly, and I'm gonna add a dot of orange. So for that orange, I just gonna basically touch it, and this is the color that I'm gonna go for, and then I'm gonna start putting that in all the colors. Same thing, I'm gonna put that in fast mode again. Okay, so now that I have the yellows, the last flower is needed to be colored, and for that one I want something really strong. There's gonna be this orange, but this orange is a little bit darker than I wanted, so I'm gonna be adding a little bit of yellow, but basically I want something really vibrant, and for that, this is the color that I'm going for. And so what I'm gonna do now again is going over the flower. It has a lot of pigment, so I might be adding a little bit of water on this one, but I'm gonna go again in fast mode. So now that all the flowers are done, the next step is I'm gonna put a little bit in the dry color to add accents. So now my first flower, the red one, is dry, so I'm gonna be adding accents everywhere, and what I'm gonna do is mixing the same colors with a lot less water. So it's the same red with the yellow, but the proportions are gonna be a little bit different. Because I want this to be darker, I'm gonna add a little bit more of the dark color than the light color. In this case, my red is gonna be stronger than my yellow, and then I'm gonna go with that, and I'm gonna go over all the places where it should be shadows, and I'm gonna imitate the lines that the stamp gave me. Like if the stamp has these black accents, then I'm gonna go with that as well, and I'm gonna go to each one of the sides. And now the flowers have some folds, and so that's where the shadow should be, right? So that's where I'm applying the most of the red. And then something else that I'm gonna do is also going through the edges of the flower. I did that with the other bookmarks, and I'm gonna do this again. And once I'm done with the red, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing with the other colors, but I just wanted you to see how I do it. It's very easy, so it's just a matter of proportions. So I'm gonna put this in fast mode again. Okay, so it's dry now. The others look a little bit different because the colors are a little bit lighter. So, and again, this is super fun, right? Because you can mix anything at any point. So what is left to do now is just folding the paper. I need this to be folded correctly, so I'm gonna be using my bone. And it's perfect because I did have this roll of paper that has exactly the same size in both in all the papers, so I don't have to be worried about cutting over. And so I'm gonna put my rolling glue, I guess, and then but for the edges I'm gonna be using my my liquid glue, just because I want to make sure that the corners are very well pasted. That is something that I care a lot about. If you have ever seen my videos ever, because I have a problem with the edges not being very well pasted. So anyway, once it's done, I'm gonna use my bond to make sure that like the glue is very well pasted and it's proportionally distributed. One thing that happens with the wet glue, of course, is that it can make it wrinkle, and that's why I use my bond. Anyway, now this is dry, so I'm gonna be cutting the edge just to make sure that it's I'm having a problem here. Gonna cut a little bit bigger. That's fine, because the bookmark is gonna be still big enough. So here it is. And so I need to make sure that everything is looking good and the bookmark is flat. When you use wet glue, it's a problem. It could be bulky if you add too much, and that's why I use the bond to make sure that only the necessary glue is in there. Anyway, now I cut the two sides, and then I will just measure right in the middle of the tag, and put a sign and like a little bit of mark there, and then I'm gonna cut a hole. This is something kind of hard to me, because I never seem to be in the right place for this. And of course I'm gonna just put this around. Okay, I'm gonna cut the corners, and then I'm gonna ink the corners again. This one is not working, so I'm gonna have to clean that, and then let me put that away, and then I'm gonna ink the corners. I like how this looks like with the edges inked. And now I'm gonna put like the hole puncher, I don't know, like these are like the reinforcement circles or whatever it's called, and then I'll put that there and paste it. I have a die cut for this one, and I love it. I love it. This is probably one of my favorite things to have. I use that for several uses. Anyway, pasting this here, and then what I'm gonna do is just highlight with black. Here I'm highlighting with black with my pen around the circle, just to make sure that it's very beautiful and noticeable. The other side, and now it's looking great. And then the next thing that I'm gonna do is using my white pen, and I'm gonna make small little marks like this one, because it looks super cute when you do that. And you know, love is in the details. And the way you know that somebody shows love is always in the details. So I put a lot of details on the things that I make, just because I think it's cute and it's important. Anyway, I'm gonna put this yarn around here, and that should be the last step. It's very fun to make, and if you're enjoying this or you enjoy that, please consider subscribing. I had a lot of fun doing this with my son, and next time probably we can do actual watercolor. So I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you next week. Bye.